Don Miguel Ruiz states, "Death is not the biggest fear we have. Our biggest fear is taking the risk to be alive. The risk to be alive and express what we really are." What a powerful statement. It expresses our human condition, doesn't it? We have all that we need to be, all that we were created to be. But so many times we doubt that truth. And we live in a world where we react to stimulus from the outside world. We forget that there's a reality that lies within us that is greater than any outside influence. And so we struggle to survive rather than uniting all of the aspects of our consciousness so that we can truly thrive. The Four Agreements, published in 1998, is probably one of the most important self-help books ever written. It tells us how we can heal that fear. It talks to us about habits and behaviors that can unite the varying selves within our own consciousness and be able to express fully and freely all we were created to be. I've taught this as a course, I've taught it as a weekend workshop, I've taught it in counseling, we have discussed it during Sunday messages, and every time I facilitate this course, I learn something new. Today, I'd like to share my latest insights with you. The first agreement is be impeccable with your word. Well, when I first heard this idea, I understood that it meant don't gossip, don't speak meanly to others, don't engage in passive violence, that is putting ourselves down, and in general, don't say you're going to be somewhere and then not show up. Over the years, I've understood it at a deeper level. You see, the word is not only the words we speak. The word with a capital W, or the logos, is an expression that defines the creative activity within us. God spoke the word, and the word became flesh. And so each of us is the word of God. In our own unique way, each of us is expressing our divine potential to the degree that we're able to recognize it and unite with it. And so, if I am impeccable with my word, of course I continue to do my best not to gossip or to make judgmental remarks or to call myself names or call others names, and I do make an effort to keep my commitments and my appointments. But for me now, I'm going to add that being impeccable with my word means honoring the word, the creative spirit of God within me, and doing everything with my words, with my actions, with my time, and with my money to focus on that truth and to create a world where I have inner peace and where I'm not in conflict with other aspects of my consciousness, where I'm not arguing all the time about what I should or shouldn't have done to gain others' approval or to be safe in the world. Being impeccable with my word means that I listen to the voice within me, the passion that is urging me to move forward in a direction. That I don't listen to the fears that say, you're never going to do it, it's never going to be done, or it's been done, but it can't be done by you. I rise above that, and I focus on that which I am and on that which I want to achieve. And by doing so, I create a dynamic of wholeness within me. My outer expression reflects my inner desires, and there is a holistic experience that creates an amazing sense of peace within us. And from this sense of peace, we can move forward, knowing that we are doing that which we were meant to do, that which we were created to be. The second agreement is don't take anything personally. Wow, that can be a tough one. because it seems that Don Miguel Ruiz is advising us to disregard what other people say. And I don't believe that that's what he meant, because he comes from love. And there is always a respect that we need to give to anybody who is sharing with us. What I believe that he is saying is, don't react subjectively to another person's view of your performance, your character, your personality, or your wardrobe for that matter. You see, all any of us can do is come from our own consciousness. That means that anything we have to say is already filtered through our background, our culture, the way in which we were raised, the things that we were exposed to, the things that we enjoy, the things that we don't enjoy. And that might not be another person's reality. That is definitely not objective reality. So what I do, and what I would advise myself and others to do, is to understand that whatever it is that someone's saying that might be of a critical nature, rather than internalizing it and feeling hurt or sad or defensive or fearful or angry, what I like to say is there any information here that I can use to help me live a stronger, happier life? Is there any information here, regardless of the tone of voice the other person is using or their intention? What can I do to find value in this moment? How can I use this information? How can I process this information? Is there anything here in this tirade coming from the other person that can be of value to me on a positive level? If I can't find anything, I let it go. But most of the time, if I'm not deeply sensitive to what they're saying and can take an objective response, I can find something in there that will help me do something differently to get more effective results. Don't take anything personally. Does not mean disregard the person who's speaking. It's just to understand that each of us is always coming from a perspective, and even though we might not value what they say, there might be something life-changing in that information. The third agreement is don't make assumptions. Well, wouldn't that be a wonderful world if we let everybody finish what it was that they had to say, and if we really took all circumstances into consideration before we made a judgment. Assumptions get us into more trouble than almost any other activity we can engage in. Again, assumptions are based on what we feel about ourselves, what we think about ourselves, how we value ourselves. And so if we're having a low self-esteem day, if we're not feeling too good about ourselves, and someone says something to someone else at the far end of the room, and they raise their eyebrow, or they look over at me without a smile, I will assume that they're not being complimentary toward me, or they're feeling something bad about me. Not necessarily because of what they did, but because of the way I feel about myself at any given time and the way I assessed the situation. Now, it's very, very possible that the two people who were talking at the end of the room and looked over at me were waiting for me to finish what I was doing so that they could come up to me and ask my advice about a challenging situation they were having. It had nothing to do with me, but it had everything to do with what I was feeling about myself when I saw the action. So again, in order for us to feel our creativity, to feel our divine potential more strongly than we feel our fears, we need to make sure that we are in a centered place, that we take all possibilities into effect, that we take into consideration, I'm feeling really sensitive, and so I can't accurately assess this situation because I'm not in a centered place. This is a fantastic piece of self-knowledge, because armed with this self-knowledge and an understanding without shame or blame that we're not in a centered place, we have a much better chance of evaluating the situation more correctly. And probably the most important thing that Don Miguel Ruiz recommends is to ask questions. Always ask questions to clarify, to make sense out of what's happening, and never walk away feeling that you have been wounded without hearing the whole story. And if you don't take it personally, you won't walk away feeling wounded at all. Our final agreement is always do your best. I love that agreement. Always do your best has relieved me from the pressure of having to do the best. I have been saddled all my life with perfectionism, and I always feel that I need to do not only my best, but the best that anybody ever did. And then when I do look out and do something extraordinarily well, I hold that as the new standard of normal. Not too healthy, creates a lot of shame, blame, self-judgment. I have always known that this was not the ideal way to achieve peace within myself. But honestly, until the 4 agreements came out, I didn't really understand how to think to move past it. Always do my best means that I have an ethical and respectful attitude toward what I do, that I will, under any circumstances, whether I have a cold or whether it's a bad hair day, I always have a responsibility to give the best that I have at this moment and not judge it by unreasonable standards. It's exciting to be able to review the 4 agreements again. I think what I'll do is keep a journal, and every year when I review this on a Sunday morning, I'll look back and see how differently I see things and how clearer my life path is. Remember, our goal is integration, being the same on the inside as we are on the outside. That gives us a united unity within ourselves. It gives us a unity within ourselves from which we can go forward with strength, poise, and love.